Alright, so we are continuing in this video, wrapping up the male reproductive system, focusing specifically on hormones here, and especially testosterone. So testosterone is one of the androgen hormones. It is typically referred to as the male sex hormone, although all individuals, regardless of chromosome makeup and reproductive organs, are going to make testosterone at some level. Just some individuals are going to make much higher quantities than others do. So testosterone is made by the Leydig or interstitial cells found in the testes. They will be found close to all of the stem cells for sperm, but function is very different. And it is testosterone specifically that triggers the development of all of these reproductive structures that we covered in the previous video during embryonic and fetal development. We'll touch a little bit more on that in another video at the end of this chapter when we look at development of the reproductive system. It's actually really interesting, but it is testosterone that is super, super key to trigger the development of testes, the penis, and all of the other structures. Testosterone is also going to be the trigger for the beginning of spermatogenesis in puberty. So testosterone levels are going to be much lower before puberty, and then during puberty the level is going to increase and usually stay pretty high consistently throughout adulthood and stuff. And it will also trigger the development of what are called secondary sexual characteristics, or secondary sex appearances and stuff like that. And that's going to include things like the larynx getting bigger, which will trigger a deeper voice, generally speaking. It's going to start the development and growth of hair in the axillary region, in the pubic region, as well as on the face and other areas of the body. That hair will get a lot thicker and coarser generally for a lot of individuals, but not everybody. There is a small amount of testosterone that does get made in the adrenal glands for both sexes. So this is another site of production. It's just not making that much, but it will make a little bit. All right, and so these testosterone levels can determine, as you can see, a lot of things. It's also going to determine fertility. So really low levels of testosterone can decrease sperm production, which will decrease fertility levels. And so that can cause some issues for individuals who want their fertility to be higher and want that sperm development because they do want to have children. And so that's obviously going to be really important to some people, less important to others though. And then testosterone is actually also really important for libido or sex drive for all individuals, regardless of chromosome makeup. And so we do see that in both sexes. The ovaries will also make a small amount of testosterone. A lot of it does get converted to one of the estrogens, but we'll talk a bit more about that when we cover that particular reproductive system. So testosterone production is controlled through a negative feedback loop, just like a lot of other hormones. So the first step of this is for the hypothalamus up in the brain to secrete something called gonadotropin releasing hormone. So gonado for those gonads. And so this is signaling that we need to release some of these gonadotropic hormones. So hormones that are going to act on the gonads. And this releasing hormone, GnRH, is going to signal to the anterior pituitary gland to produce luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. The luteinizing hormone is specifically going to signal those Leydig cells to make testosterone, whereas the follicle stimulating hormone is going to trigger the spermatogenesis process to kick into high gear. So this is touched on a little bit more with the endocrine system in chapter 15, if you want to kind of review that. But These are all of those hormones that are really, really important for testosterone production and sperm development. So we've got to start with that gonadotropin releasing hormone, which goes to the anterior pituitary gland, which then produces luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone to signal the production of testosterone and spermatogenesis. So these hormones will also be present in individuals with ovaries, so we'll touch on that later. But these are really, really important reproductive hormones. And so in cases of infertility, or if a couple is having a hard time conceiving, then these are a couple hormones that are going to be tested to see what's going on. These hormones are also important for other things. Certain disorders and stuff can have increased or decreased levels of these, even if fertility is not a concern at that particular point in time. Also functional within the reproductive system, but just not listed here on this slide, are a couple other hormones like inhibin. So inhibin is a inhibitory hormone, so it is named very, very obviously. So the Sertoli cells in the testes can actually, again, be stimulated by follicle stimulating hormone to actually make inhibin, which will then kind of do that negative feedback loop back to the brain, signaling this to stop being produced. So we need to stop making the follicle stimulating hormone, which will, and the luteinizing hormone, which will decrease that testosterone production. So the inhibin and these different stimulating hormones are all really, really important. That wraps up the male reproductive system, and we will continue with the female reproductive system in the next video.